Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to kick off our final reports for the 2024-2025 school year for the STEDTRAIN Seed Grant Awards. Today's agenda is introduction and welcome. And, let me drop into the chat, or Ron can put into the chat. If you need to reach either myself or Ron during this meeting, if you fall off and can't get back on, my number is 256-651-5693. You can go ahead and text me with updates. And Ron, if you could put your number in the chat as well, that way you have a way to reach out to us and give us updates by cell phone text, and then we can try to bring you back in. Today we're going to cover what the Huntsville Association of Technical Societies does. That's our umbrella organization. We'll talk about the STEDTRAIN committee, which is what is sponsoring today's presentation. We'll talk about the donors that have been so generous in their support. We're going to let Colonel Heyman give us some insights of what it is to lead a global IT organization and also be an educator. And then we'll hear from the teachers of the results of their STEDTRAIN grants and the student STEM activities of the past year. We'll close the meeting with an opportunity for the teachers to vote on the three areas, basically elementary, middle school, and high school, which they think were the best presentations. And then we'll close for the morning. So we'll hopefully keep it short and sweet. So let me continue on to the next slide. And let's see. We're going to talk about hats. And hats is, I'm going to bring in another screen here and hopefully that'll display properly. And it's showing on one screen, but not on your screen. So let me just do a quick swap. Bear with me. Okay. Are you now seeing at least the view of the STEDTRAIN welcome page?
Yes.
Okay, good stuff. So what is HATS? Huntsville Associates Technical Society started in 1968 as a nonprofit. It's the parent organization of the STEDTRAIN committee. We're celebrating 56 years of support of the Huntsville technical community. Allison Wren is our president, and actually has been for more than 2022. She hasn't updated her slide. But she is also a grandmother expecting another grandchild and is having a grandbaby shower coming up this morning. So she asked me to make her presentation. The mission of HATS is to coordinate the professional, educational, civic activities of its members. And our members are basically professional societies that have some aspect of Huntsville participation. And we support Huntsville area technical and professional societies dedicated to the advancement of science and engineering, a good fit for STEDTRAIN, correct? We started off with 6 chapter societies for HATS. It has grown to 28, and we've got more than 18,000 members in the local area with technical professionals, business, government agencies, educational institutions, and nonprofits all participating. And the charter members, and you, I'm sure may have heard some of them. I know a lot of people have heard of IEEE, which is the well, the Colonel might talk a little bit about IEEE, but many of us know about the Von Braun Astronomical Society and the work that they've done. So again, these were some of the original charter members. And then the board members for this year are Allison. We're looking for a vice president. We have a treasurer, Allison Cash, another Allison. And then of course, IT, Mr. Hackett, and I'm representing STEDTRAIN. And if you know some of the other people, that's what we do with hats. So with that, I'm going to go back to our regular overview presentation, and let's see if I can get that to, all right. So now here are the committee members, pictures of Miss Allison and Miss Allison. Mike Barron is our STEDTRAIN chair. He was not able to attend today's meeting. That is an earlier picture of me, a little bit dated. Mr. Ron, Jennifer, Jane, and Bobby, some of our committee members. Again, more the wonderful folks. There's a nice shot of Laura and Robin Dama. A lot of basically you'll see your teachers and IT and engineering professionals that are members of our committee, all volunteers. We wanted to give mention to one of our founders, Dr. Gradska, who is not able to join us today, and then some earlier members that have unfortunately passed, Mr. Setlow and Woody. I'm filling in for the big steps that Woody Williams created as vice chair on this committee. Again, really appreciate the work done by those that preceded us. Talking about our donors, the National Defense Industrial Association, specifically the Space and Missile Defense Working Group, have been considerable donors of the STEDTRAIN organization over the years. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude and appreciation. The IEEE Huntsville section, another good donor for us. And then we've had in-kind donors from like Ron's organization, the Georgia Tech with Laura's organization. And interestingly, this week, I met with the Vertiv organization in Huntsville. They're a local high-tech firm. They had a Pi Day presentation and on their own reached out to STEDTRAIN with a donation. And so the next school year, their funds will be shown on this page as for supporting the 2025-2026 seed grants. And we'll probably have a picture of them presenting the check of their donation to me. So again, real impressed with the good support we get from the community.
You should clarify there that pi is spelled P-I. It's the Greek letter.
Well, I'm sure our educators know about Pi Day on the 14th of March 3.4. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They honored Pi Day with contributions, and they actually did a pie in the face for people, and the money generated from that really fun event went towards STEDTRAIN. So yeah, Pi Day, P-I, correct. Now, a short introduction for Colonel Heyman, who will be our guest speaker today. He is working to manage the communications and information infrastructure of an extremely large Army command based here at Redstone Arsenal. We talk about that as the Chief Information Office. And Colonel Heyman, I let you jump in. Do you want to take the screen, or do you just want to refer to talk over this screen?
Paul, so you ready for me to give my quick?
Yep. Bring it on.
Hey everyone. So good morning. First, I want to say thank you to the Huntsville Association of Technical Societies and to the STEDTRAIN committee for the opportunity to speak to the group today. Will admit I went to Terrence and Paul and said, "Hey, how long do you want me to talk today?" And they said 5 to 10 minutes. I said, "Good, I'm an engineer because I don't do well with speaking. Give me math instead, right?" So yeah, as Paul mentioned, I'm currently the acting G6/CIO for Army Material Command. About 150,000 strong organization spread across the entire world. Recently had to deal with some uniqueness in Japan, so got a reminder that we are OCONUS and not just CONUS based. And also a little bit more of my background. I was a former educator. I taught at West Point twice, once from 2011 to 2014, and most recently from 2019 to 2023. So I was a college professor at West Point. It was a great time. So I'll admit when Terrence and Paul approached me about being a guest speaker, I never heard of STEDTRAIN and I'd never heard of HATS before. Terrence gave me a little bit of information, a little overview, because of course I had to go to ethics and make sure it was okay to come to this, right? And sent me a link, and I clicked around, did a little more research, and what I really found was quite an amazing organization that you have here that's dedicated to advancing science and technology education. And even more amazing, it was formed in 1988 before STEM was even an acronym or a buzzword that we used all the time, right? So that's pretty amazing. I know Paul said I was going to talk a little bit about AMC. I'm not going that direction this morning. I actually want to talk about educators because I'm talking to a group of educators this morning, right? And something I wanted to mention was just like some example of two educators who shaped my life and my career. The first one is Mrs. Ann Lansky. So when I was in 5th grade, my parents, a farmer slash construction owner and a homemaker, bought a Packard Bell 286. So that was like early 90s, right? And Mrs. Lansky was a retired teacher and a family friend, and she realized I was interested in computers. Like that's kind of how we said it back then, right? But my parents, they were using the software to kind of run the business, but that was it. And so Miss Lasky offered to tutor me in computer programming, right? Because we called it computer programming back then. We didn't call it coding as the buzzword then, right? So once a week, I go to her house and learn some MS Basic was the flavor then that she taught me, and that was great. Probably did that for about 3 years or so, from about 5th to 8th grade. And I would say my first useful program printed off, I will not shoot spitballs on the bus 100 times, because I convinced the bus driver to let me type it instead of writing it, right? And then, because I was still a kid, I was interested in coding, but still a kid. So every day, every session would end with 10 to 15 minutes of playing some MS-DOS based video game. So I'm sure my wife blames Miss Lasky for my hobby or addiction, as she calls it, to video games to this day, right? So that was really the first educator that shaped my life and really my career, right? The second one was when I was a cadet at West Point, and it was time to pick a major. And I would argue that in the late 90s, in our smaller schools around the country, we were okay at teaching computer science and physics, but we didn't have a lot of engineering curriculum in the schools back then. So I knew that I liked math. I knew that I enjoyed computer science, but there's a little competition at West Point, even though they're part of the same department, between the electrical engineering program and the computer science program. So then Major Shea, now retired Colonel Shea, sat me down and said, "Hey, I've got a deal for you. You can do this thing called computer architecture, and you can do some engineering, but also all your electives can be in computer science, so you can still have fun with coding." And I was like, "Okay, man, we'll try that." And she sold it. And that's really how I became an engineer instead of a computer scientist. So it was a one-off encounter, and she was recruiting pretty hard, and that worked for me, right? So, and why I kind of wanted to share these two stories is because they're not necessarily unique to me. I'm sure if we poll the people in this room, or we talk to people across the nation, we'll find millions of similar stories where educators really steered someone's chosen career path and life path towards STEM, even though we didn't call it STEM then, right? So this group here, you all have the opportunity to really change the course of people's lives, and I think you all probably realize that, right? So I completely support what this group is doing, and I wanted to say thank you to everyone here for your selfless service to educating the nation's youth, right? And I'm really excited. I'm going to sit through this. Terrence and Paul said, "Hey, you can just come in and talk and drop off." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that. Hear about what the community is doing to educate our youth, especially." We have 3 daughters, young daughters right now. I might have been a failure on the oldest. She's a business major, but we still have hope for the other 2. one in high school and one in middle school right now. So I'm excited to hear the great, amazing work that this group of educators has done over the last year. So I will remain online and listen in. So again, thank you for inviting me to sit in today. I'm excited to hear everything. So back to you, Paul.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. And kudos for your fine work as well. We're going to start off now with the K through 3 STEDTRAIN grants. We're going to start off with Diane, and then we'll go with Megan. And then we'll go 4th through 8th. I'll cover for Lynn with, unfortunately, she's not able to attend. Whitney will follow, then Brandi, and then 9th through 12th. Teresa, Monica, and Jennifer covering for Marty. And so, Diane, just tell me when to advance the slide, and that goes for everyone. And go ahead and begin.
All right. Good morning. My name is Diane Trout. I'm a pre-K through 3rd grade STEM lab teacher in Athens, Alabama. So I get those sweet babies that are just 4 years old. So I get to introduce them to STEM. I tell everybody I have the best job ever. It really is the best job ever. I mean, I get to teach them from the very beginning to think outside the box. So here we go with Indy speed coding. Thank you very much for this opportunity. They have loved this so very much. It's a car. So our results, the project was very successful because it got students thinking in computational ways and not just in a one answer way. It was measured by observation and discussion. A lot of times when you go on coding websites, and not to knock code.org, but we love code.org and stuff like that. But there's a one way to get the answer to get to the next level. With these Indy cars, you can do multiple different ways. That's why part of why we all love STEM is there's multiple ways to get the answer. So they have the color tiles, and you'll see in the pictures in a little bit. They can figure out more than one way, and it took them a little while to figure out that that's okay, because a lot of times in the classroom setting, in the general education classroom setting, they are so focused on getting that right answer for those standardized tests they have to take now that they struggle with being wrong, and they struggle with having a different answer from someone next to them. And we have to learn that that's okay, and they learn through these projects that that's okay. So I call it a success when they think like that, and they're comfortable with failure, and they're comfortable with thinking in a different way than their neighbor and still getting somewhat of the same answer. So the biggest problem I had was time. I only get them 35 minutes once a week. So my lessons have to be quick. And in the fall, my dad had a major emergency brain surgery. So one of my big projects I wanted to do with them with this project was have the 3rd graders build a city and have kindergarten and 1st grade code Indy through the city. But that didn't happen because the year caught up to us. And by the end of the year, we've lost track of time. I do hope to do that next year. But we've learned the basics of Indy, and all of my grade levels have. And so I think knowing the basics of Indy this year will carry over to next year, and we'll definitely be able to hop into building that city, making it more cross grade level than we have this year. Plus we're moving into our new building next year. So it's going to be great. We'll have a lot more space next year. It's going to be wonderful. But yeah, time's the biggest problem when you only have them 35 minutes, and calming them down when they come in from PE. But they love these cars. In the future, I plan on starting out coding with Indy. We seem more responsive with him than with Bebot. That's what I started with, because I've been teaching 4 years with Bebot, and here I have these little cars. So I was like, I'm going to start with Bebot. Next year, I'm just going to start with Indy, because they do so much better with them. They're responsive to him. He can also be used on the iPads with the older kids. And like I said, I hope to do the city. And up. So when I give them a pink tile, I didn't tell them what it meant. We talk about, okay, you know that green is go, the function of the red tile is stop. What do you think that the function of the pink tile is? So we talked about where are we going to place it? If you know that he has to stop on, or he has to start on green, and their little squeals and they're moving the tiles around trying to figure out with the task where it's going to go. But they have really, really enjoyed it. And the PD that I've just received, we have a STEM COP with AMSTI, and we share ideas there and on the Sphero Indy website. And if you'll go to the next slide. So in second grade, after we learned the basics, they problem solved how far apart the tiles could be, and they measured how far, and we did some area and perimeter activities with that. In kindergarten, we did the basic, what were the function of the red and green tiles, and we use that vocabulary and algorithm and decomposition. So they all know pre-K through third grade function of all of the tiles. But kindergarten started off very basic. First grade, once they learned it, they had to figure out how to get Indy to drive into a square, which is a lot harder than you think it is. I really had to think hard about that. The first group saw Miss Trout problem solving with that. It took a lot of blue tiles to get them to drive in a square. But they eventually figured it out. It took almost the whole class period and a lot of collaboration between groups, but they got them to drive in a square. And then pre-K's figuring out where the yellow tile goes in the sequence, because once again, the function of green is to go and the function of red is stop. So he can't drive past red, and you have to put him on red to go, or put him on green to go. So he's got the yellow has to go somewhere in between there. And for pre-K to figure out where yellow goes as a function, to me, that's a huge thing. And I just let them figure that out on their own. And the pre-K teachers come into the STEM lab with their kids, and their minds were blown that their kids could figure it out. So exciting. There's a link at the top. It says link to videos. Is there any way you could play that video? It's on YouTube. It's not hyperlinked, but maybe copy and paste. I can't hear you. If I mute mine, will yours work? Because I can't hear you right now. Let me mute. I can put the link in the chat. So there you saw they're trying to spread the tiles out and figure out how to make them go a little bit farther in between the tiles. And they're just having so much fun with it. That little group of girls were trying to get them to go in a square. So they got them on a path to make them turn and stop. And you can see here they're working together to figure out where the different tiles go. So the tiles work really, really well instead of starting them out with block coding and just handing them an iPad because they're so, yeah, and the clapping. Thank you. They get so excited. We get so loud. And everybody knows my room gets loud, but especially when they get these cars, they get so loud. Because they get so excited. But it's so much better than just handing them an iPad to start out with, because they're really, really having to problem solve where these tiles go. And I don't tell them, they have to work together as a team. So thank you guys. I think that was the last little bit. So thank you guys so very much for giving them these Sphero Indy cars, because next year we're going to do our city. And now that all 426 of my kids know the basic color tiles of Indy, we're going to do bigger and better things with them next year. So thank you guys very, very much. We appreciate it.
Paul, I think you're muted.
I'm not, can you hear me now? Okay. I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Hear you, Megan.
Okay, good. So that's a little tough to follow because I did not attach a video, but if you switch to the next slide, and my dog's gonna growl. because- Yeah, sorry. Um, okay. My project is Makey Makeys, which are boards that you can attach to any computer. And what they do is the kids can code them to make any interaction with the coding interactive. So ours, I teach K through 5th grade STEM, so 750 students, same thing, 30 minutes a week. So our projects have to be well thought out to fit in that time as well. So we use the I use the Makey Makeys with 5th graders as kind of a final graduation project for them. So they created a museum-like piece for K through 1st grade students. So they could choose any STEM topic that they wanted, and they had to create a 3D model. They had to create a backboard with information that they researched, and then they had to code them with the Makey Makey so that the kindergarten and 1st graders could interact with the actual display. So it either made sound effects, and they had to code. If they were doing the rainforest, they'd push 2 pieces together and it would make monkey sounds, or they were doing Saturn, and they had to, if they pushed these 2 together, it talked about the rings. And then some of the kids took it even farther and they created video games with the scratch, and they would be doing the ocean, and they could make the fish move up and down. And if they caught the fish using the Makey Makey, it would tell them a fact about that fish. So this was they created 32 unique projects. None of them were the same. They presented it to the 240 kindergartners, and we put it out for the 5th grade talent night as well, so the parents and administration could see all of them and interact with them as well. They had to learn how to use the Makey Makey. Then they had to figure out how to code it, and then they had to problem solve how to make it interactive for each of their own displays. So it was a really interesting project for them. They had to work as a group of 4 or 5 to create this, each of them create their own unique display. So if you turn it to the next page. It kind of back one. There we go. So you can kind of see the results. It was shown to a lot of different people. The kids were super engaged. We did something like this last year, but without the Makey Makey. And so the kids kind of walked around and looked at this. But with using the Makey Makey, all the kids loved that they could touch things and then interact, and they were learning science, and they were playing games, and they were doing all these things that 5th grade students had created. And what was really cool was just hearing the comments from the kids, the younger students, because they were so excited and they can't wait till they're in 5th grade now because they get to make this. And they were surprised that 5th graders could make these themselves because they're not that much older, or their siblings, or there's something like that. So, and they loved being able to touch what the other kids had made. They've seen them in the background of the room being built, and so now they actually got to see it all put together and interact with it, which was really exciting for everyone. If you turn to the next slide, you can kind of see some of the pictures. So the little red and white boards are the actual Makey Makeys. And so they plug them in and it can interact with any program. We used it with Scratch, and you can see that they're figuring out the coding there. An example of some of the Scratch coding that they wrote to interact with it. And then this is some of the displays and the little kids work interacting with them. So it was a huge success. The kids loved it. It's got a lot of possibilities for the next years. We did have a delay with a vendor who said that would come by a certain point, and then they came a lot later. So we would start the interactions with the Makey Makeys, and I actually plan to start them with 3rd and 4th graders so that by the time they get to this point, they will easily be able to create more complex code. And then the last slide just talks about how it talks about the benefits for them where they will. It was really interesting to watch them code and then figure out the Makey have a base, like an earth part, and then they have an up and down part. So you have to close the circuit for it to actually complete whatever code they've written. So if they've put in a code that says it starts with up arrow and then it makes a cat sound, which is our basic code, they have to have a alligator clip on the bottom and then an alligator clip on the up arrow, and they have to touch both of those for it to work. So there's a circuit part to it, then there's coding, then they had to think all the way through the interactive display and figure out how to make it effective for them. Not just an addition to it, but how to make it part of the actual presentation. The little kids loved it. It was challenging, but beneficial to the 5th graders. They were so proud of what they'd created at the end. And so it was amazing to see the difference from last year without them to this year with them. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to see that for the kids and watch them do that. I wish I had a video to show you how excited they were, but I don't have that. So that's really where we're at.
Well, certainly something for next time. Uh,
Yes.
and thank you. I've resolved my comms issue and I'm back. And thank you very much for your great work with a very enthusiastic student base. That's wonderful. All right, we're going to move forward to Whitney's presentation on credentialing in the ALSDE STEM cluster. Whitney, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So when I requested the grant, I was teaching our robotic systems class at my school. And but since then, I have fortunately gotten to just teach the middle schoolers, and I love my middle schoolers. But another teacher is teaching the robotic systems course. And so what I wrote the grant for was because we are implementing the career tech STEM cluster. So our high school students can credential in the STEM cluster for their college and career readiness. And and of course, they have to credential in something or get a specific score on the ACT, or there's some other ways, of course, they can graduate. I'm sure everybody is more aware of those than I am, because I have been able to focus on my middle school babies this year. But the teacher who has taken that class over, she went on maternity. She was pregnant the first semester and went on maternity leave the first part of January. But we have been able to use, we got 3 classroom sets, and we have been able to use those to teach the students in the robotic systems class. But also what's so very exciting for me and my 8th grade students is we use those to promote the STEM cluster for our upcoming 9th graders to join the CTE STEM cluster. And we had about 75 students go ahead and sign up for that. So we have 75 students that are going to matriculate into the CTE program. And so I was able to take my 8th graders in the class with the classroom kits, and the students currently in the class were able to showcase the robots to my 8th graders. And then my 8th graders kept coming up and saying, "Can I take some of that home? Can I take some of the supplies home to play with?" And so I do have older things that they can take home and play with, but I said, no, I don't think some of the new stuff. Let's leave the new stuff. So, so it has really engaged their interest in the STEM cluster and has engaged their interest in STEM in general. And so I hope I have been able to witness the production of a few, at least, budding computer scientists, because they have really been enjoying the class, and they've been enjoying getting to go in with the older kids, and the older kids teaching them about what they do in the STEM cluster and building the robots. And then, like I said, the teacher who is over that now, she had a baby, I guess around Thanksgiving, and so she was on maternity leave after that. But we hope that the students she's had this year can start a high school team next year for VEX. So the classroom kits we got were VEX kits. So I really appreciate STEDTRAIN making that possible for us and help. We're still kind of a new school, so thank y'all for helping us get that off the ground and providing supplies for our students that they can use for several years.
Wonderful. And the sign of true engagement is students wanting to take things like that home. And that's impressive.
Yeah, and they're just so sweet. They're so they're a little timid when they go ask her because they don't know her as well. But these are our older guys building the Clawbot. I wish I had pictures of my 8th graders in there because they're just mesmerized by what the older kids are doing. But yeah, they didn't ask me. They sneakily went in there and asked her if they could take stuff home with them. So, but I went to them. I said, "Look, you can ask me, and because I have some older stuff that they can use, some stuff that doesn't necessarily work for the competitions and for the class anymore. So they're cute."
That's fantastic. I think you have one more slide.
So yeah, our goal was to entice students to sign up for the STEM cluster. Sorry, I have a baby golden retriever that was trying to drink my coffee. But we did want to entice students to sign up for the STEM cluster, and we did successfully do that because we have about 75 students signed up to take those classes next year.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. Sounds like a very good project.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, pleasure. Brandi, you are up next. And this is something when the proposal came in last year, I was intrigued. So talk to us about your work with tardigrades.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? All right. I think I got myself
we hear you.
unmuted. So the last couple of years, I've really been trying to focus on my grant request of how to engage a typical middle schooler that has to take a typical science class where they have no choice and they've got to get through it in the whole year and get away just from what your requirement from the state is with your standards and all of that, but get them really engaged. And microscopes was one of the things that got me engaged a very long time ago. And when you see a world open up that is there, but you see it, it's there every day, but you don't see it until you look through this kind of lens. And I have done some work on being exposed to what tardigrades were, which are a almost indestructible microscopic organism, lives everywhere. They can be in the vacuum of space and recover. They can be in thermal vents and survive. They can be in extreme cold. And they do something where they dry theirself out, they dehydrate theirself and put theirself into a stasis. And the stasis can be for a season. The stasis can be for a year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. And when the condition is right and the moisture comes back and everything, then they awaken. And so that's kind of where this started. We had very old microscopes that you could never get a full clear picture. Everything was fuzzy from years of use and abuse and things like that. But that's something that's very expensive to try to replace. So an effort really had not been made. When schools are built, you get that, but then it doesn't really come up again to make a big purchase. So we can go on to the next slide. And so I myself and another teacher, we have about 150 7th grade students together. This is her first year teaching, and I am her mentor teacher. And so I kind of let her shadow along with what I was doing with my class, and then she was introducing that to her students as well. So for this year, it was around 300 students were impacted, but this is going to be the case every year because these microscopes will be around, we hope, if they're taken care of, in the level that they are for, the next 10 to 20 years. And the microscopes we had that worked, there might only be 4 or 5. And when you have classes of 24, like we had 5 years ago, you might could make it work. But we're really to the level that we have 33 to 34 students in all of our classes. And I don't know if you know this about middle schoolers, but they don't have a huge, great patience level. And it's very hard to get them to wait for their turn and to keep them captivated. So we knew that the more microscopes we had and the less time anyone had to wait to use it would be better. So we really trying to get as many divided out among our group as possible. So the problem that we faced was really just having the sharing, and we're working on that, and we do some rotating stations. And so while some students might be rotating, some other students might be doing something else. And then between our classes, we are now signing up. We set up a sign up so that I'm not the only 7th grade science teacher that's using that. Because I can tell you, when another class hears that they can use microscopes in this class, but not this class, it really causes some heartache between some students, between some parents, between some teachers. So, I'm sharing with my colleagues, and we can sign up for those. And I want them to be used by as many people as possible. And we know that beyond my time there, they'll be used in the classroom, and there's a lot of things to do with it. So we can move on from that slide too. That's the future utilization. The point was to try to increase this interest. So I mentioned what tardigrades were to the kids. We had learned a little bit about Leeuwenhoek, who first saw through a microscope things that he called animalcules, which we call microorganisms now. They looked like tiny, tiny animals. And so I wanted them to be able to experience what Leeuwenhoek experienced so long ago. And so we went on a bear hunt. Tardigrades are called water bears because they look like little fat water bears with 6 legs, but they're really tiny. So when I told them they're everywhere, and they were like, yeah, but they're not probably here in Meridianville. And I was like, oh yeah, they are. And we're going to go on a bear hunt. So the fact that they got to go outside in a regular science class, all 33 of them with Petri dishes and plastic knives. We went and scraped lichen off of trees, which was a great way to show them actually what lichen was. And we brought that in, we put a little water on it, and they really didn't see a lot. And then we checked on them again in about 3 days, and they were just teeming with life. And they were like, where did they come from? Was this bacteria? Did it develop? And so being able to have them walk through that, it just allows them to feel like, A, they're a real scientist. They really are learning something they didn't already know. And most middle schoolers already know everything. So when they learn something new, it's incredible. Um,
And
and
admit to it.
then they can share it with other people. And so when people are absent, and they can say, oh yes, look, this is how you do that. And so being able to teach somebody and share their knowledge, it's amazing to see that self-confidence develop. Um, what's really cool about these microscopes that I want to say is that we think, at least I kind of think of microscopes as an old school piece of technology, but they're still so valid. And these microscopes can be charged. You can unplug them. You can take them to a table, and you're not tied to an outlet. They have some bright field and some dark field where you can see things bright or you can see them glowing. So in this picture, you see at the top left, number 1, they are collecting from the lichens, and they're on their bear hunt. In number 2, they're adding the water, understanding why that's happening. And then your 3, 4, and 5 are using the new microscopes that we have there. And you could tell they're very student friendly. They have some handholds to carry them, and giving them like, hey, it's okay. You can carry this over there. You can use it. I trust you with this piece of equipment. And the kids are taking care of them, which is also a win for us. And you could go on to the last slide, I think. So our goal was, to get them engaged, and it definitely did. They got to use real scientific tools. We think that this is going to be able to be used for years. And tardigrades are not the only thing that we can use them for. Right now, we're in the middle of studying the nitrogen and carbon and water cycles, and we're coming back to them in our ecology unit. So it is an immersive and experiential learning approach. And I think it makes them like science. Not an elective class, not an extra STEM thing, just the regular old class that everybody has to take. So that's what we did this year, and we really appreciate it. And it's such a great investment, and it's going to be returned year after year. So thank you so much.
And thank you for opening up the vista for these students. Not only this year, but like you said, for many years to come. That's impressive. Thank you. We'll be working next with Ms. Hodge at Hazel Green and custom built hardware. Excuse me. Thank you. Go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, so our project this year, if you can see me, there we go. Our project this year was called Custom Coding Built Hardware. So I feel like, especially with, the advance of AI, in the past, I've always just done coding, like strictly coding software. And we've focused a lot on that. But I think with AI coming up through, kids need to understand more of the connection between the software and what is it actually running and the hardware. And especially in my class, I started a new class last year, Information Technology Fundamentals. So I've got a lot of ninth graders in there. And sometimes just sitting in front of the computer, for an hour and a half, for 4 months is tedious. So yeah, I mean, it is for me. But so I wanted to get some hardware stuff and start incorporating it more in the class. And the kids have really just loved it. And first of all, I want to say thank you for all you elementary and middle school teachers. You're making my job much, much easier because I'll be honest with you, the kids are much better. I've been teaching software, programming for, 7, 8, 9 years. And the kids I'm getting now are much more familiar with technology. They're familiar with programming. They're familiar with, STEM. And I can tell that they've seen it before. As a matter of fact, a lot of stuff we'll do, they'll be like, oh yeah, I did something like that in middle school, or oh yeah, I've seen that before. So I just want to say thank you to all these elementary and middle school teachers that are feeding to the high school, because it does make a big difference, even with critical thinking skills, being familiar with coding. It just helps out a lot. It really does. Okay, so you can go to the next screen if you want. All right, so the success of the project and how we measured it. So what we did in this project is we incorporated new hardware with our current RVRs that I already had. So like Brandi was saying, when you have a large class, which we always like to have big classes because that means we have a lot of kids in STEM, you can't have too few of something, because you get 3 or 4 kids on one RVR. You got one kid doing all the work and the other 3 are just standing there. So luckily, through grants like yours, I'm able to build up, and now I've got where every 2 kids can have their own RVRs. And with your grant, I was able to get enough kits so that each RVR has their own hardware topper kit. So what these kits were, they're through Sphero, which is a great, especially for elementary kids and middle school. It's a really good investment because you can use them over and over again, and you can go from low-level programming where they just use their finger to draw lines and it programs them, to blocks, and then to eventually line coding on them. But anyway, I got these kits, and what the kits were, there's sensors, there's sliders, there's buttons. There's like it looks like a breadboard, or a board that you actually put on top of the RVR where you connect, and they're magnetic, which is really nice because you don't have to worry about soldering or wires. They're all magnetic. So they work together to form circuits on top of your RVRs. And so we incorporated the new hardware with our RVRs, and they were able to program the sensors to do different things. Like there's proximity sensors. So if they get too close to something, it kind of buzzes. There's light sensors, there's some that play music. So there's all kinds of different things. So problems and resolutions. So I'm new because my degree is chemistry. I'm not a computer scientist. And I'm finally not mastering, but I'm getting better with the software portion. But I'm learning the hardware portion right along with the students. So getting the sensor set up, how do we, they give you diagrams, but they're always sometimes confusing. And then probably the biggest thing, which once again, thank you, middle school teachers. The instructions are all in block-based programming, which, I've never seen before. But luckily some of my students had. So as we were programming these, it was really funny. I had 2 or 3 students that had done it in middle school. So, I would be like, hey, hey, so, where'd you find that block? Because we were looking for these blocks to code these sensors. So that was some of the problems and resolutions that we did. And then the other thing we did, we kept trying to find blocks to program like the RVRs to stop and turn. But what we didn't realize is the sensors that came with it just did it automatically for us. Like it would automatically stop using the sensor, the proximity sensor. So, which was the point of the sensor, it was to sense something in front of it and make it stop. And one reason I really like using these sensors and incorporating them, especially with the RVRs, students you can almost see their, light going on, realizing everything in technology now uses sensors, GPS sensors, proximity sensors, sensing your heartbeat, self-driving cars, they're using cameras, but they're also using sensors. How close are you to something, So going forward in the future, the integration of the hardware with the software is, paramount. I mean, we've got to understand that if I don't program the sensor right, you're going to have a car that might run into a tree, or, a missile that, might not hit its target because its sensors are not programmed correctly. So I think doing even just simple, programming an RVR to go through a course to sense what's in front of it or the color that's on the floor, I think has really started opening their eyes up to how new technology actually works. I guess you can go to the next slide. All right, so for future utilization of the project. So the hardware kit came with a microbit adapter, and luckily I had gotten another grant, so I actually had some microbits that we were able to program with it. Now, that was the other thing. We kept trying to figure out how to program it to do certain things, and then we were like, oh wait, here's a microbit adapter in our sensor box. So we had some microbits, so we were able to go ahead and use the microbits to program these self-driving cars. Now I know, and I have to work on it over the summer, there's a way to program the microbits in these RVRs so that we can hack into them. And that's going to be our next step. Okay, we're going to try to move from just programming a car to go on a course to be able to hack into these cars while they're actually driving on the course. And my students were just super excited. They're like, what course do we take to do that? They're like, what can we do next? They really want to do that. So that definitely generates some interest in that. So yeah, exactly. Robot cyber war. That would be great. Have a little competition. Whose car can make it to the end, without being hacked. So benefits to the students, 100%. They're learning real world application of hardware and software relationship. I think that's really important. In my introduction to IT class, usually I get a lot of students that sign up for it. Sometimes you get students that don't sign up for it, like we all do. They're filling all those seats, but it's a good thing. I mean, I don't mind when they put them in there because we do such a variety that what I have found is students who are really good at programming need a little help with the hardware. Students who struggle with the programming portion, the software, usually excel at the hardware part. So it's kind of like a marriage between the two. And that's why we usually use partners on everything, and we try to get like a hardware software person. And it really does simulate the real world because you're going to have people that are great at one thing and not in another. And I try to encourage students, because, maybe not every student can, write a software program, but, that doesn't mean they can't work in STEM and IT. You can build the hardware, you can troubleshoot, you can say, hey, no, that's not what we need to do there. This would work better. And so that's a really good, it encourages a lot of students, I think, to say, hey, you know, I might not be, you know, the software engineer, but I am going to work in this STEM building the stuff that the software engineer is going to use. So it's a broad, you know, scope for every student. There's something for everybody. I mean, STEM is so widespread. Who wouldn't want to do it? I mean, it's the most exciting thing that we offer, I think, but I'm just a little prejudiced. So benefits to the students, learn to troubleshoot hardware, software issues. We did that a lot. And they definitely had a better understanding of how self-driving cars work, because some of them didn't program them right and they were running into the wall. So yes, you definitely don't want your car running into the wall. So I guess you can go to the next slide. Okay, so here's just some of the students where they're working on. The first one is they're adding the board to the sensors to his RVR topper. So they get that board and they have to actually put it on top of the RVR and put it on there. And the top right, that student, he is working with the proximity sensor with the iPads. And the other thing was, I had invested in with another grant, and thank goodness for organizations like you, because stuff is expensive. You know, an iPad, you know, $200 for an iPad doesn't sound expensive, but when you need 15 of them, you know, it adds up quickly. And the really cool thing is when you get grants like you guys offer, you can invest in this stuff and you've got it. Like these iPads were another grant that I got, and I've had them for 3 or 4 years. So, which was really nice. But anyways, the top right, he's programming with that iPad. Yep, exactly. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the hardware software at the college level. Yep, that's definitely what we're working towards with these kids. So on the bottom, that kind of shows you a picture of what the Sphero kit comes in. It's a box and it's got all the sensors. And then you've got a little booklet that tells them what each sensor is and what they do. And there's a lot of different options. And then the bottom is just one of the students actually using the RVRs. So the sensors work when they drive the cars, and they also work when we drive them autonomously. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, the kids really enjoyed working with, you know, the RVRs and then with the hardware on top of it. So I think that was all I had. Oh, well, I guess goals and results. The goal, yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't have another slide. The goal of the project was to have students understand how hardware and software work together. I think we met those goals. They really did enjoy it. And they were able to understand how sensors and programming relate to things like self-driving cars. So it was eye-opening for both me and the students. So I'm continuing to learn, which I know we all are. I'm not an engineer.
Well,
we're learning.
and kudos
Don't hit the walls.
to embarking on this, because this is not easy stuff.
Mhm.
As you've said, you've learned, as have your students, and having visited this past week, the joy on their faces when they went from this is not working, it keeps running up, in this case, up the student's leg, it wasn't stopping.
Yeah,
And then he got the sensor to work and it stopped right in front of him and turned left. And just the grin on their faces
Yeah.
was just amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the colonel and others will appreciate. You mentioned the importance of middle school kids coming in to high school. I want to emphasize the importance of high school kids coming into college and then college coming into the workforce,
Yeah.
because we need students that are familiar with these tools, familiar with ethical hacking,
Yeah.
so they can protect our infrastructures much better. And because there's a lot of people out there causing mayhem,
Yeah.
and we want to identify that and limit that to as much as we can. So again, thank you. This is part of a process, and workforce development, STEM, incredible. Thank you.
Here.
Miss Monica, we're going to have a Limestone County Career Tech next.
Okay, thank you. My name is Monica Hobson, and I am one of the robotics mentors for Limestone County's robotics team. We have a robotics team made up of 7 schools and two homeschool students. We also have some private school students that are going to be joining our team. So we've really tried to reach out into the whole community as far as our membership. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So we rely on this grant every year because we use our it helps us to buy motors and aluminum and things so that we can build a teaching robot, because we have our competition robot that we compete with, and then this allows us to the programmers can work on the coding, and the drivers can drive the drive bay. So this allows us to keep to not have to cannibalize our robot each year. They're able to see, of course, as their parts fail, they are able to see what they need to do each year to make it better, or to keep it from happening the way it has in the past. Okay, you can go to the next slide. These are our photos from this year. So we were able to go to 3 competitions this year. We went to the Huntsville competition, where we won the Engineering Inspiration Award and the Woody Flowers Award. And that's a picture of the kids with that banner. And then that's our robot that we built this year. This year, the game was based around water. We had to take coral. It was balls and PVC pipes, but it was algae and coral that we had to remove and put on various components in order to score. The scoring is a little difficult to comprehend, but the kids have to build a robot. They find out in January what the robot has to do each year, and then they build the robot to actually do that task. So every year the game is different. So we rely on this grant to help us to buy new parts for each game that we find out, once we find out what mechanisms are needed. We also went to New Orleans, Louisiana, where we won the Impact Award, which is it's like the most prestigious award in FIRST, and that allowed us to qualify for Worlds in Texas. Also in Louisiana, we finished as a finalist in the robot competition. So the robot competition is, of course, one of the big parts of the competition, but it's more than robots, because the outreach, community service, teamwork, we're also judged on all of those things, not just the performance of our robot. So it allows the kids to also being able to recruit young students to be interested in STEM. So we've been able to go out to schools and try to encourage kids to go in the STEM fields. Also, we have a camp each year where we try to get kids interested in STEM. And then if they attend that camp, then that gives them, once they're an 8th grader, at the end of their 8th grade year, that allows them to meet the criteria to apply for our robotics team for the county. So we've tried to expand that way and to get more kids in our area interested in STEM and being a part of this program. Okay, you can go to the next. So as I said, the students design and build a functionable robot. We have individual mentors, industrial mentors that are set up to where we have one for programming, one for build. We have a manufacturing mentor who helps with the actual building. And then there's 2 of us who are teachers who kind of put it all together. Again, talking about the Impact Award, their public speaking skills and presentation skills are always, they grow in that area. In fact, the last 2 years, I've had one of our presenters come with me to present. I'm kind of missing her today because I'm having to do it, but she always did a great job of presenting, and it was just really good experience for her. And they have to go into what's called the pits and communicate with all the other teams. At Worlds in Houston, Texas, there were 600 teams, and from all over the world. Like there was the team that won was from India. We met teams from Turkey, China, Brazil, and so they're able to go out and interact with these kids from other schools or other countries, and I think that's a great characteristic. Okay, next slide. Or is that the end?
That's the last slide.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's all I have then.
Okay.
Mine's very short.
Well, very good. Well, and thank you. And remind me, the the World was held in Houston this year?
It was Houston, Texas, at the George Brown Convention Center. It's actually held there every year. In previous years, I would say like in 2000, this is my 21st year doing FIRST Robotics. And in 2007, 8, around that time, it was held in Atlanta. And it was called Nationals. But now it's called Worlds, and it's held in Houston, Texas.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for inspiring your students.
Yes, thank y'all for the grant.
Okay, Jennifer, now you'll be next covering Marty's presentation.
Okay. Forgive me, this is like a start my video.
This is new.
All right, forgive me. This is new for me. Can you see me?
Yes, we see you both.
Oh, okay, cool. So, Miss LeBlanc is busy doing some curriculum stuff today, so we're gonna try and stand in for her. So forgive me if I kind of stumble. I've never done this for her before. I've only been a mentor for this program for about 2 years. My kid's been in this program for about 2.5 years. Okay, so next slide. All right. Thanks to the funding for STEDTRAIN, Lincoln County Schools expanded access to hands-on robotics education for students in grades 6 through 12. We used the grant to purchase 2 additional VEX V5 robot kits, enabling the formation of new teams and increasing student participation in competitive and classroom-based robotics programs. This expansion supported both in-school learning and after-school, providing more opportunities for students to explore engineering, coding, and real-world problem solving through robotics, as well as exposing them to various engineering fields. Next.
Let me interject real quickly. The rightmost photo is a great example of the complexity of these robot units and the parts that you are required to use. For those that aren't familiar with these programs, it's incredible how many pieces have to be put together, and the students have to learn how to apply those, connect them, and modify them as demand. So again, what an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, it is. It's actually really kind of interesting to watch these kids when they come into the program, because we get kids that come into the program who have never built a robot. Some have never coded. Miss LeBlanc amazes me in the fact that she does not turn down anyone. We've had special needs kids all the way up to really brilliant kids that have been in this program. Some of our kids build their robots using CAD designs, and they'll pre-build it in CAD first. And some of our kids, they're given a kit and they're given instructions, and they have to figure out how to read the blueprints and build it and follow the rules, and they got to know which motors are legal, which ones are not. And it's amazing because you sit there and it's like they're not going to have a robot. But by the time competition comes, all these kids manage to come up with some kind of robot, and they do amazing in these competitions. And I love watching them grow as a mentor. It's really amazing.
Definitely.
All right, so over 2024-25 school year, more than 60 students actively participated in our robotics program across middle school and high school. Students learned skills in CAD, programming, engineering design, and public speaking through VEX, TSA, and FIRST competitions. Our team qualified for the VEX State Championship, a major accomplishment that made it possible through STEDTRAIN's continued support. These experiences not only challenged students technically, but also built confidence, communication, and leadership. Now, on a personal note on communication, my kiddo that started this program, he started out as an observer 3 years ago. He has autism and mutism. Through this program and through the help with Miss LeBlanc, he is graduating this year with honors with the Saturn V scholarship to UAH and going into engineering. He found his voice. He now this year in FIRST competition was able to go around and talk to his people and get various different teams interested. He spent the majority of his time mentoring the junior high kids. So he was teaching them how to program. And it's just amazing the impact that had on him. And then we have some other kids that are upcoming, like Allie, the young lady you see in the wheelchair there. She's starting to learn how to code and she's trying to find her place. And it really shocks me to see how we get some of these kids that are really kind of rough and they just turn into these amazing people. So without this program, I don't think many of these kids wouldn't be where they're going today. All right, next slide. Participation in robotics has had a direct academic impact on our students. We've seen increased engagement in math and science classes, with students applying engineering concepts learned through hands-on robotics. Seniors in the program were engaged to pursue STEM scholarships and dual enrollment opportunities. Several students expressed a new interest in engineering, computer science, and aviation, directly influenced by their robotics experiences. The project also supported peer-led mentoring and outreach, with high school students introducing robotics to younger learners in feeder schools. Okay, she have another one? Next.
She does.
Okay. The grant laid the groundwork for an exciting new chapter, the formation of our first Tech Challenge team as our robotics program continues to grow. We're introducing students to even more advanced technologies, Java programming, autonomous systems, and strategic gameplay. FTC offers a new level of challenge and creativity, pushing students to lead, innovate, and apply STEM concepts in exciting new ways. With continued support, we are building sustainable multi-grade robotics pathways that will continue to prepare students for a future workforce. So what we did this year was we did first, which is what you saw in the previous school stuff. So we do those big robots, the first robots. We also do the VEX robots, which are the little robots. But we are adding on the FTC, which is pretty cool because these are I think maybe a better starting point for some of our high schoolers that have never built robots before. It's more a Connect style, but it has a challenge. It's a shorter play grade. So that one, I think it goes from September to January, where the other first one goes from January through the second semester. And this will give kids who are, say, in band or sports an opportunity to still be in the robotics program, because VEX is an all year thing. So our VEX teams, it's hard for both kids to do. So it's really cool for us to be able, through STEDTRAIN, to add another competition onto our groups. Okay, next.
I think that is it.
Oh, that's
it,
all
that's
she
it.
has? Oh,
Ooh, we made it.
yeah, hey, I made it through all her things. Cool.
Wonderful. And thank you. Congratulations. Sounds like a very successful year and some real growth in the students that are participating in the program.
It was, because our junior high kids are the ones that went to Worlds this year, which was really, really cool to see. Really cool to see
Fantastic.
those raised that high.
Okay, and thank you very much. Ron, if you could you bring up the Holy Spirit presentation? I'm not seeing it on my side. And take the screen. Somehow I missed it on mine. Ron, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm looking for it.
Okay, I am too.
Somehow it seems to have gotten.
Yeah, exactly. And if we need to, we could use the overview slide if we have to. I know it's in there. I can talk to it there. If you don't find it, I do have the single slide from the overview that we could potentially use. So let me know if you find the full presentation. Otherwise, I'll just talk to the overview presentation slide.
And we'll try. And that didn't help because I don't know.
I'm going to short term bring up so people can review what was on the overview. If you can find the full presentation, great. And
Almost
if
got
not,
it here.
you do have it, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and take the screen then. And I believe this is our last presentation, correct? Is there anyone out there that we haven't been able to cover yet?
Already seeing it now?
I see it now. Is there everyone else see it? Okay, go ahead and advance it, please. And again, I'm going to be covering for Lynn today. She is not able to make it due to a death in the family. Her project was to kind of enchant her students with a Mars rover project. They were not able to get it as completed as they wanted to, but her students spent a lot of time designing, planning, and building rovers and the prototypes for the Mars simulation. They were fortunate to have a member of the local NASA community as a parent, and they were able to help mentor the process. Uh, they met on Mondays, had many school cancellations, and so they weren't able to get as far along with the project as they would like to have. But she reported to me that the students were impressed, enchanted, and they're continuing a process of NASA-related projects that have found a lot of interest among the students. I guess in particularly because many of the parents in her of our class room students are involved with the local Marshall Space Flight Center. So the students have sort of hear it at home, and then they go to class and they get sort of an opportunity to do hands-on work with some of these activities. So next slide, please. And some of the photos, how they were planning to build a Mars landscape, their rover that they would use on the landscape, and then now running down the school hallway, and the Artemis Lego. The Lego Artemis is in the final stages of construction. If you can see, that's part of the tower there. Artemis is the current high performance NASA space rocket center that's going to get us to the moon. And it's a pretty impressive achievement. Many centers are involved with it, but as we all know, the local NASA facility with the Marshall Space Flight Center is the lead on propulsion for the NASA organization. And so they're responsible for the Artemis mission and the development of the hardware that will get us back to the moon. Artemis 2 will do a lunar orbit, and Artemis 3 mission should land our astronauts back on the moon. So that's it's an interesting process there, and their students are highly involved. Is there another image? Yep, the goal is to have the 4 terrain completed by the end of the school year. Interesting, the club members will educate the teachers at the beginning of the school year. Club members will also demo the project at a school assembly at the beginning of the school year. That's a good opportunity to share the results of the classroom activities with the larger school and parents to encourage sort of cross class discussions and encourage participation in some of these programs. Is there one more?
No, that's
Is
it.
that it? Is that it? Okay. So have we covered all of the other presentations? Please pipe up if we missed anyone. Okay, good. So now we're going to go through and do the final presentation. And am I presenting? I should be, but if not, I can. Basically, it's the Best Presentations Award. You've seen some really good presentations, and we've broken it out by 3 groups. Each of the teachers should have received by email a link where you can vote on the best presentations. Let's see how the beginning. Yeah, you just missed it, Ron. Right there, that one. Does anyone not have the link to vote? Please speak up if you did not receive a separate link by email from Ron about how to vote for each of the 3 groups, basically early elementary, middle school, and high school. Each of those give them members of those groups your thumbs up on who you felt gave the best presentation and were most able to engage the students with their STEDTRAIN project this year. And Ron, will you update me as when you see all the presentation voting completed?
Will do. Haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, so teachers, sound off if you found the link in your email to go ahead and begin the voting. Anyone not seeing that? Ron, do you recall what the title of the email was?
Should have been something about the ballot. Yeah, we've received 4 ballots so far, so we're still waiting for 4.
Okay, Megan, you said you do or don't? Megan cannot find hers. Ron, would you be able to resend the link to Megan? I'm reading from the chat.
Yep, I just resent it.
Okay, very good. And I believe, Jennifer, you should have received a separate link. Yep, got it. Done. Thank you. Monitoring the chat. Very good. While we wait for the votes to be tallied, any closing comments, suggestions, thoughts that way we can benefit your STEM education in the classroom? Live forum.
I'm just thankful that you guys give us these opportunities to provide for our students because it's hard, especially there's so many opportunities for middle and high school, but to find grants for elementary school kids. Thank you for giving opportunities to elementary school kids. I appreciate it. And so do my kids and my principal.
Well, you are most welcome. What would help us help you is if you know of community organizations, professional societies, even local businesses that are aligned with your interests in helping the students learn. Let them know about STEDTRAIN, encourage them to donate. They can go to the STEDTRAIN.org website and there's I believe a blue donate button, and they can make donations on behalf of their company, on their organization, their professional association. And believe me, as you have all said, the money is well spent and the students benefit in our multi-county area of North Alabama and South Central Tennessee. So again, encourage those out there that have the means to help us continue to support the STEM grants through STEDTRAIN going forward. Ron, how are we doing in terms of tally? Are we close to 8?
I got 6. Megan, have you voted?
I still don't have the link.
Do you know what email it was sent to, Ron?
CM hockey at madisoncity.k12.as.us.
.al.
Yeah, .k12.al.us. Yeah, that's where it got sent.
Okay. I looked in my junk even. It's not there. So I'm all right with, you can go without my vote. I trust everybody.
Actually, we need your vote. I got a tie going right now.
We got a tie going on.
Yeah.
I go.
All right. 8610 is your mobile.
Yes.
Okay, I just sent the link to your mobile.
That I got.
Wonderful.
Okay.
You might want to dismiss that screen, sir.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot that was on the monitor that's being shared.
Okay, we should soon have 7 out of 8. Who else
Yep, we got it.
do we need? Okay.
I just want to also agree about the helping the elementary schools, because what we found, we're a second year STEM program, and we found more of our kids are going into middle school STEM because we're catching them in kindergarten, pre-K, and so that when they hit 5th grade, they're not quite as influenced by the, oh, my friend wants to go here, or my friend wants to go there. They know they've been coding since pre-K and kindergarten, so they're not quite as afraid to go into the STEM programs, especially our underrepresented, our girls and some of the other people. So we found that that's been really helpful. So supporting us that way has been really good.
All right. The best presentation results are being displayed.
Woo! Congratulations, going group 1 in the kindergarten through 3rd grade to Miss Diane Trout of Julian Newman Elementary. Group 2, 4th through 8th grade, Miss Brandi Glenn of Meridianville Middle School. Woohoo! And our last group, 9th through 12th grade, Teresa Hodge, Hazel Green. Congrats to the Best Presentation Award winners. Again, as we all know, it's the students that are the true winners in all of this active engagement by you wonderful educators. Thank you for what you do to encourage our students to learn and to grow. We owe you a major debt, and this is one small way of letting you know how much we appreciate all the wonderful things that you do. With that, I will close this final reports meeting. And thank you all for your wonderful participation with HATS and STEDTRAIN. For those of you who have submitted applications for the next school year, they have those proposals have been received, and our volunteer committee will begin the evaluation of those proposals. And what is the time frame for the announcement? Is it late August?
Usually we try to get it out by the 5th of August.
By the 5th of August.
Yeah, for the best presentation winners, we will be mailing a check to your home address. The home address I have on record. If it's different than what you put on your original application, send me an email with your correct or current address, and I will try to get those out this week. Our treasurer, she spends a lot of time out of town. Sometimes it takes a week or two to get things processed, but we'll get those checks out to you as quickly as we can. And that $100 is however you want to spend it. Teachers, I know what you're going to do. You're going to spend it on your classrooms, and we greatly appreciate your dedication.
You guys are fantastic. And again, thank you out there. Any closing comments or updates or thoughts that anyone would like to share? Well, hearing none, thank you, Laura, for GTRI's support of this virtual meeting. I will close the meeting with a big hearty thanks to all educators. You do wonderful work, and the students and all of us benefit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.